Hi guys, how are you? Hi everybody. Today we got a special guest. I'm so excited. We got Tracy Braxton's husband, Kevin Surratt. Do I say that right? Surratt?
You did. Yes, you did.
Okay, good. First of all, before I get started with anything, I wanted to really thank you for coming on the show. I don't know if you watched my channel before, but we are huge supporters of you. And we wanted to let you know that you have lots of fans that support you because, it comes across a little different on the show. But you have your crew that rolls with you. And one of them is Sharrell's World and my subscribers. So, I wanted to
Thank you.
let you know that. And then also I wanted to say this is not an ambush at all. If
Okay.
I if something gets too emotional that you can't talk about or you just don't want to talk about, just tell me next question. Because
Okay.
what mainly we're just glad you're here and we want you to tell your side of the story.
All right. I appreciate the platform and thank you.
Okay, good. All right. But before we get into all the mess, I want to go back a little bit. How did you meet Tracy?
I met Tracy working at a care facility for youth in Upper Marlboro, Maryland in 1992 was when we met. We started dating in 93.
Oh, that's a long time ago. So, and then how old were you when you got married?
We got married 3 years after we met. So we were definitely young in our 20s and we just, kind of felt each other's energies coming from two different spaces. And then when we came together, we just really grew into each other.
I know your love goes back a long way. You said 93 is when you first met her. Was she already in the group, the Braxtons?
Yes, their first, I guess, album was in, I think, 89. She was coming out of high school. So then they got the offer and the opportunity to be on LaFace Records as a group, but it turned into them, Tony going, Tracy, said, Tony, go ahead and go. And I know you'll come back and get us. And that's exactly what Tony did. And he went on tour
So
after that.
you knew Toni Braxton before she was famous?
I met them during that time. So Tony's first song was to give it to me on the Boomerang soundtrack and all that. So I met Tracy right during that time. And then right after that, her CD came out, I want to say 93, 94. Then he went on the United States tour with Frankie Beverly and Maze.
Now, on the show, they were talking about them not being able to sign Tracy because she got pregnant and she wasn't really hurt by it. And she came as soon as she was able to, I believe, at a Luther Vandross concert. Was Tracy hurt during those times when she didn't sign with the rest of them?
See, the story is this. I mean, I dropped Tracy off to the house, and then I went and waited for her to finish with the interview. It was with an executive from Atlanta Records and their representative from the attorney manager, I want to say. So, so they had a meeting in the basement of my mother and father-in-law's house, and Tracy was pregnant with our son, and she kept getting the question, "What do you want to do? What do you want to do?" And so, she didn't want to abort Kevin, of course.
Mhm.
But what hurt us so much is that the questions were coming from her loved ones. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? Because her name was on the contract. So I've heard some of the narratives to this, but when the executives came outside to get in their car to leave, one of them said to me, "Hey, Kev, her name was on the contract," and that's how it was left. And she came out, and we went for a walk, and she was crying. She was like,
Oh,
I can't do it. I can't do it. And I'm like, why can't you? Your name is on the contract. And she was like, I can't. And then she said, the reason you can't because and what was put out. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? And so they've been upset with me because, I went through the process with Tracy of her emotions, her feelings, her disconnect, her reconnection. And yes, she did go on a tour after that in Europe. In '97, she went to that was with Mint Condition. Tony went on tour with Mint Condition in Europe, and she just came back. Something happened on that tour. I don't know what happened, but she came back and she started working back in the facility we was working, and we went on because our son wasn't even he wasn't even one. He was in six. And the funny part is she wanted to take him to Europe with her, and I'm like, Tracy, you can't take Kevin to Europe. So I stayed home and I took care of him. But it's a lot to go with that because the big piece is support. She never felt like she had the love and the support that she needed from which she came.
yeah, she mentioned that on the show. Do you ever watch the show?
Yes,
She was
yes.
saying, I feel like y'all don't support me. I feel like y'all not helping me. And that's back when they called her the wannabe. How does she feel about being labeled the wannabe?
It's funny. I heard some recently saying that I was pushing that. I would never push for my wife to be a wannabe. I know what she went through. So the wannabe crushed her because again, it's like when she was asking what you want to do, what you these emotions and these feelings with things that Tracy went through. So now she see on TV that they're calling her the wannabe. Why are you getting that from which you came? That's the big piece. Because if you Tracy was never an executive producer. Tracy was just a producer, what have you. So she didn't have a lot of say so in things. So the ones that had to say so, I mean, you really would look at that. They wouldn't let their sister be called the wannabe on national TV. That
Mhm,
just don't make sense. So that's
mhm.
how she looked at it. She looked at it. Why would they let them put that out there? So of course I said, Tracy, all you can do is change it. And so that's when she created where she got her family involved. Myself, Kevin, the people that we had as far as our village on a regular while she was disconnected, and the motorcycle, the Eastern Star, those villages that sort of surrounded us and gave us the love that she was used to having. They just poured into us.
Now let's go back in the '90s. You first getting married. She doesn't sign with the other women. What was your relationship like with the Braxtons back then?
Sharrell, I always wanted to support Tracy. That was my whole thing. So, say for example, we would go and have Thanksgiving dinners. So my whole thing was, I'm there for you, Trey. Let's enjoy the family. Let's do the things that family do, and that's how I support us. The family, it's always you know tension there, I would say. But my focus was Tracy. I want to make sure that she gets in the winning space that she wanted to get in. So I would support her. Now, sometimes I would have my opinion if things were asked of me, if things were said. I'm gonna give my opinion. Just how I see it, and Tracy knew that. But I tried to be careful with that because I didn't want things to be kind of how could I say this? I didn't want everybody to come down on her because it would be spaces that would get her in and it just throw her off. And so I had to be careful what I would say or do because basically they would take it out on her.
Mm, okay, so it sounds like it was tension from the beginning. Why is there tension? What what's the hostility about? Why don't they like you?
I I, I would say I was I didn't have a lot of money.
Mhm.
I was just an average guy, I worked and My goal was I was going to take care of my family to the best of my ability, and that's what we did. Tracy went through some disconnects in our marriage. It would, like, say, for example, she was so, she got hurt at work one time, and sometimes mentally she was just unable to kind of pull through certain things. So I had to die. I had 5 jobs I was working, and so that took me out the house a lot. But I wanted to be a provider. Like in Trey's words, she said, "Well, you was a good provider, but I missed some other things in reference to, taking care of my family, being there to dinner and stuff like that." So so as things started to kind of, spiral up early 2000s, um, it got a little better as far as my time being with my family. Um, it definitely brought, wrenches. Say, for example, we moved to Georgia for like 2 years,
Mm.
and I was, kind of, it was a picture was painted. And the picture was, we moving down there. Uh, I'm gonna sell my house up here. We're gonna move down there, and they also gifting a house to us. I'm like, oh wow. So Tracy was saying, yeah, the house is gonna be gifted to us, and we're moving down there, and also we know people that can help you get. I was knew a lot of people in our area, so I always was able to get jobs. So when I got down there, the narrative was totally different, and it just threw me, you know, off. And then Tony went to Vegas. So when Tony went to Vegas, everybody went with Tony, which left Tracy down there by herself.
Oh,
And I had to take on it. Yeah, she was by herself. And I
wow.
had to take on a job back home so that I can move my family back up to the DC area. And Tracy just it really affected, some things. And of course, with all that, it brought infidelity, it brought a lot of different things on both parts, and we just had to work through that. And one thing I loved about Tracy is that, we were able to work through a lot of stuff. And
How did y'all manage to stay bonded, you and Tracy, with the family? Did the family's treatment of you ever, what's the word I'm looking, affect you and hers relationship?
absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Abs-
Oh my gosh. All right. So I got a list of questions that the audience wants to ask, and they're not in any order. So we're just going to go because I took them from the comment section. Did Tracy leave the bulk of her estate to Junior because you were bad with money? That's what they want to know.
Um, that's cool. Well, I worked. See, what people don't realize, I always work. The show came out, and I always work. So I worked. I just retired from the Department of Veterans Affairs. I worked in the care field for over years. So I always worked. So the bad with money thing that came out, it was like, I'm gonna take care of the home, and that was just my job. And Tracy, she would contribute to the pot, and we would just, manage things that way. Bad with money, I would say we both were. We both had our valleys and peaks with that. And I think if you're in a marriage or in a relationship, you have your learning curves. So we had to learn from that. Uh, as far as the estate, uh, I believe that there was some, how can I say, I just want to say the word manipulation in that situation. If you look at the numbers, Tracy, December the 20, I think December the 14th, I think is the day that she did the, Tracy was at the highest level of medication at that time. And I don't really think that doing a will during that time was the right time to do a will. And then on top of that, they tried to catch her when I wasn't there. So I worked. I was still working during this process. So I was happy the family was there. I worked the overnight shift at the VA hospital. And unfortunately, the will was executed during that time.
Are you
And
contesting the will?
no,
Let's
no.
go back a little bit. Um, how did you find out that Tracy was sick?
We were in California taping, And we was at the hotel, and Tracy was like, Surratt, I'm having a hard time swallowing. And I said, what you mean? I said, have you been taking your medicine for your acid reflux? And she said, yes. I said, well, I'm going to call Dr. C. And so when we get back, you can look at it. I said, that's your gift. You got to take care of that. And I called Dr. C. He said, as soon as we get back, we can go to the office. So I got back first, and then Tracy got back. And so that Thursday, we went to the doctor. And luckily, it was an ENT doctor there also. And so he set up an appointment for her to come in immediately the next day. So he did a scope, and he said he saw something down there that was unusual. And he suggested that we go to Georgetown Hospital. So over that weekend, she got sicker, and I went on and rushed her to the hospital. And while she was in the hospital, which she was already scheduled to come, they just went on and did the full check of her, and come to find out she had
When and how did Kevin Jr. find out?
stage. I told Kevin I needed to talk to him over the phone. I didn't want to just tell him over the phone. So I told him the next day when the opportunity presented itself. Of course, it was during COVID, so certain people weren't allowed to come to the hospital at that time. So I had to make sure I was there with him, and that's when I let him know. So I also uh, told Tracy we gotta let the family know because I wanted her to have support. And so I set up a Zoom call. I contacted Tony through a text message, and then we in turn set up a Zoom call, and everybody was on the Zoom. Uh, and I to let them know what was going on. They said if there's anything they can do, let them know. This was around about December. The holidays was coming, December 15th, 16th. The holidays was coming, so I wanted to make sure that she had all the support that she needed to get to. We had, I should say, to get through this process. So start pouring in. My mother-in-law came in town. Whatever the day they took over the Capitol, I think that's January the 12th.
I think it's the
I was
first.
picking, I was picking my mother-in-law up from the airport, and she came in town. We was living at the National Harbor, and so my mother-in-law leased a condo downstairs, and then the family just started coming. Periodically, Tamar, Tony, Trina, Tawanda, they were back and forth, and the support was there. Vincent came briefly. Uh, Vaughn, he was there a lot with Trina, and we just went through it. Um, it was the most Tracy had ever had as far as family, and so I feel like that gave her the lifeline that we had with her that last year, and that's why I just wanted to make sure that she was given because I wasn't giving up. I was calling the Cancer Institute of America. I was calling John Hopkins. I was calling everybody to see if they can, treat her.
So I hear that the family was very supportive during this time with Tracy, especially Tamar. Were you there too? Was it all of you as a group?
Absolutely,
Mm.
absolutely. Now, let me tell you how that looks. So, and again, I love their love that they have for each other for the most part. They cover her. You know what I mean? So with
Right.
that covering, it's focusing on her. So I had to get my level of support because I had to be there for her. So say all the hospital visits, I would have doctor visits in the house, all that. When the time permitted itself, I was playing with her. There were times when I just couldn't. They were just so much in tune to her. Me and her couldn't have no space by ourselves.
Right. Right.
And like I wanted her to sleep in the bed with me some nights.
Mhm.
That was a challenge. It was times when I wanted space for us. That was a challenge. But I wanted her to be happy. So I had to
Mhm.
balance that, and I would talk to my people, who was giving me the level of support that I needed about, that process. They would advise me, the more you let her get what she needs, the better it be for us. For someone to put a narrative out that I wasn't there, I mean, come on now. Like my sisters, they bought me a gift card, for example. This came up from one of the narratives that I was downstairs in our building getting a mani petty treatment, but it was right downstairs in our building, and I just was trying to take care of myself, just to lift my spirit. And they made big of that he's getting a mani and a petty. I had a free gift card that my sisters got for me, and they was checking in on me. So stuff like that was kind of driven in a negative aspect. I just had to shake it off and keep moving because the focus was her.
So, little Kevin, how was he acting during this time that she was sick? Who was supporting him?
Myself, his wife. I have a daughter also from my first marriage, and they are real close. She was supporting him. His friends, they were supporting him. Uh, so it was me, and also me, definitely me. And I was trying to get him to come over more often, but it was hard for him to come over to see his mom like that. So it's
Yeah.
one picture when he came over and he just was hugging her. His head was all on her. That's one of the pictures I've seen on social media. Uh, I really feel like Kevin did his best in that situation. That's his mother. So
Yeah.
that's extremely hard for someone to see. My mother's still with me, and she's
Mhm.
going through, her illness. But I tell Kevin all the time, that was your mother. That was my wife, but that was your mother. It's different.
Yeah. Also, I think it's important for everyone to know. I spoke with your sister that you have a very close family that
Yes.
actually live in the area, right?
They've always supported myself and Tracy. Yes.
How close was the Braxtons with Junior before Tracy got sick?
20%.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Let's go back to my audience questions. Uh, okay. No, you're not contesting the will. How did you feel when you saw Kevin Jr. say that he was born into this family and you married into it?
That that let me know the confusion that was in the midst of this. And I really hated that he said it publicly like that because I don't if you understand it, you you won't drive or allow an individual to push that narrative. And a lot of times, one question was asked to me, why your son, going with that? I said, well, you got to understand, he feel like you know, the Braxton side of him is stronger and more powerful, so he want to go with that. I don't think that Kevin understands the whole dynamic of it, so we working on that to get him to understand that, Kevin, first of all, you haven't what you call them interviews, on the show to talk
Right.
about the narrative outside of. So you got to understand what you're dealing with, and this is what we always kind of told them in reference to the show to understand how the narrative will be driven. And I really feel like they are manipulating the situation. I guess I should say with him.
Now, on the show, they're saying that you and Kevin Jr. are estranged. If that's true, why?
No, we're not. I go. So let me say this. So Kevin's been going through some, I guess, court issues. Him and his wife, divorce, some domestic stuff. And of course, everything was dropped last week. I, with that process, which was all new to Kevin, Kevin had never in his life experienced anything like this. So his wife, she couldn't really, I guess she couldn't stand with the situation as far as him grieving. And because, of course, grief brings emotional roller coasters and things of that nature. And so she had a hard time with it. And of course, they were clash. Kevin having seizures. One day, Kevin was having a seizure. She gave him CPR. Can't give him one CPR when they're having a seizure. And so it's just a lot of mixed messages in that. But like I told Kevin, some people are not built like that to be able to support a situation of that likeness. She probably tried, but it just turned into, the behavior that came out of it, which, the thing that they went through was traumatizing on all parts. Kevin ended up going to jail. He had a court date, and he had two cases that day. We went to the morning case. The evening case, he didn't show up for. His wife did. They put a bench warrant out for him. With that, someone called the sheriff and said he was in the house, and they came and arrested him while he was taping. So it was just, a lot of stuff, but he's in a much better space right now. Spoke with him yesterday. Uh, he is really finding his way. I told him he really needs to make sure that, I'm getting counseling. He needs to get counseling to work through this process because that's his mother and it's important. So, he seems to be okay with that process. Matter of fact, I'm going to see him after we finish talking.
Now, there's a rumor out there that Kevin Jr. isn't coping well and he's using drugs and alcohol. Have you heard this rumor?
I heard the rumor about the alcohol, not the drugs. Again, Sharrell, I really feel like Kevin is definitely processing something like
Yeah.
he's never had in his life. And, unfortunately, sometimes the things we use to cope with to go through it are vices that are not good for our existence. So right now, I'm working with him to make sure he address things properly because I told him that he has to make sure he's in the best state to take care of his son. Because the one that's suffering in the long run is Kevin the third. And he hasn't seen his son since May. And that's crushing me. So I have to work with getting Kevin where he needs to be. And he's actually more open than he's ever been. I guess he had to release that other situation and now he's open to working through this process. And I want to say he's doing much better. And I'm concerned definitely with his intake. And I'm trying to get him to really focus on getting a strong account that he can be as strong as he can be.
Now, there's a protective order against Kevin. Do you know anything about that, or do you even want to talk about that?
It was thrown out of court
Okay, good. All right.
last week. It was tossed out of court.
Mhm. Now, if you've seen the show a couple years ago, Tawanda said that there may be an illegitimate child that you had out there. Did you see that episode, and is that true?
Absolutely saw the episode. So this is the illegitimate child situation. So I told you earlier I have a daughter,
Mhm.
and so at that time, remember I told you earlier also I used to work a lot. So
Mhm.
when Tracy and them started doing the show, I eased up on work, and then I was home more, and I was taking care of, you know, like my home. So my grandson used to spend a lot of time with me. My grandson is Zaire for my daughter. So Zaire used to come over the house, and my favorite spot, Sharrell, is Starbucks. So me and him would go to Starbucks, and we would partake in my venti chai, and we had fun. But he was hyper, so he was all over the place. So this girl saw me at Starbucks, and she put it on Twitter that I'm in the Starbucks with a child, and I guess the rumor went from there. So my sister-in-law Tawanda had got with Tracy's management team, which the assistant manager, he they came up with this thing that I had an illegitimate child, and they put it on the show. But the child was my grandson, Zaire. And
Mm.
so the funny part is, like I was telling Trey, I said, Trey, that's how we ended up going on marriage boot camp. I said, so if you look at it, it looked one way, but it turned into something else because we was able to go on marriage boot camp and work out some of our issues. So it really elevated our marriage. So thank you. Is what I said to that situation because
Mhm.
it turned into a positive. So I was thankful. But that's how things are driven.
So could this be one of the reasons that there's so much tension? I don't understand. I'm having a hard time finding out why they don't like you. And does that include Miss E too?
Is that do that include who? You was breaking up.
Miss Evelyn.
So I'm I said my father-in-law and mother-in-law off the limits. I'm gonna respect them as my elders, right? I promised people I was gonna do that, and I do respect it. Um, the driving forces behind this, Sharrell, is that I didn't go along with a lot of stuff. Is my opinion. I don't agree with,
Mhm.
like, a lot of stuff that was taking place. Like, I don't understand why Tracy wasn't getting the support that she needed in his area. Like she did Blues Alley. That was huge for her. The only one that showed up was my brother-in-law, and I thank God he did a duet with her. So, and it was beautiful. But that was like a milestone for her. So all of her things that she did, you know, it showed that you're not supporting Tracy, and she's supporting everybody and their ventures, and sometimes off camera and things of that nature. And I don't know if that's a driving force, but it goes back, years, decades that they did everything they can to try to divide us. And I just would tell Tracy what goes on with us. It's important that we balance it to the best of our ability. Now, me primarily growing up an only child, Sharrell, I knew how to balance my stuff because those sisters, they're from my stepfather. So, but they've always embraced us. And
Mhm.
so that's the love that I've always gotten. And I expected to get it from my in laws too, but it was hard. So, as far as me and why they had a problem with me, I don't know to the day. Because, I mean, if they say it's because I cheated on my wife, if you watch Marriage Boot Camp, Tracy clearly sat beside me and said, we both had infidelity. We both went through that process of healing from the infidelity that we went through. But another thing I took on, Sherelle, if no one, like you guys have been married for decades,
Mhm.
I wasn't letting nobody come into my marriage on my part if you
Mhm.
hadn't stood on those grounds. I'm sorry, you can't come in and talk
Yeah.
about a situation and you haven't even lived it. Myself and Tracy lived it, no matter good, bad, and indifferent. We lived it. To death did us part. So I don't get caught up in those narratives, and I bat it down. Excuse my French. Nah, I ain't gonna curse. I bat it down as much as I can. I'm about to
Yeah.
curse.
I can relate to that. My husband has 8 brothers and sisters, and they just
Oh,
because they were so close, they thought that they could get in our business all the time. So I get where you're coming from. I do.
right.
It's hard to balance that. All right. So, do you know anything about Tracy's tape phone calls with her attorney?
No, I told you
Uh,
that time they were doing stuff when I wasn't around.
oh, okay, okay. So this will. So let's. I hate to talk about this, but we got to address it. They didn't. The sisters didn't go to the funeral. What happened during that time? Why weren't they there? And I was told that Michael Jr. and the father was there. What went on? What was that all about?
So with the service, um, on a Zoom call that was mentioned,
Mhm.
the question was, Surratt, do you have the money for the funeral? I wanted to see how everybody was going to process this. Tracy was a member of the Grammys committee and the DC chapter, and our publicist had already taken care of the arrangements for the funeral. So the arrangements already taken care of, and the Grammy committee supported that process. But they were trying to see where I was at. Saying much on that Zoom call because I felt like it was a ambush. I didn't have anything to talk about because if you wasn't supporting me, why am I on this call talking about
Right.
to my
Kevin, can
wife.
you hear me?
I had went through so much. I got a call. Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's choppy. Keep going, keep going, keep going.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're freezing.
I received a call. I just want to say this, Sharrell. Yeah, I'm trying to. Let me see. Position this. How's this?
Better. Go ahead.
How's it? All right. So I received a call 10 to 15 minutes after Tracy passed. I'm, li- I'm literally sitting. Uh, Alexa is telling me she's having difficulties with the internet. So I I got a call from the attorney, and the attorney said, just 10 minutes after she passed, 10 to 15 minutes, I need to read something to you according to the will. Where they do that at? I'm on the
Mm.
phone and he reading something. I was like, I don't even know what it was. That because I just lost my wife. This is the behavior I started dealing with as soon as she passed. An hour after she left, an hour after she uh passed, I was in the room for 2 hours by myself with my wife, waiting for the funeral home to come. Nobody stayed with me. So uh, I I just look at stuff like that, and then I'm getting this call. Then the next day, saying it's going to be a Zoom call. I'm still processing my wife's death. I'm not even, really talking to people. I'm trying to process. Then I got to take care of my son at the same time, and all I'm getting is, "What you going to do? What's going on with this? Blah blah blah." No, not supporting the process. So let's go back to your initial question. We been out. We knew what she wanted. She wanted one viewing, a private viewing. And we set that up with the funeral home that she had put in play. Tracy made me talk to the funeral home director when I didn't want to. So the funeral home director came to my house and we talked privately. And she said, "This is what Tracy wants." I kept telling her I wasn't there yet, but okay. So I executed everything that Tracy wanted, from the private viewing, which was set up for my in-laws at the funeral home that my father-in-law had used for his mother, father, brother, sister, and other family members on the Braxton side. So one thing about this funeral home, they know all the Braxtons. So then this narrative came out that my father-in-law wasn't on the list. My sister that you talked to, she was my coordinator. She knew my father-in-law. She was at the door. Her and the funeral home director knew my father-in-law. You still there, Sharrell? You froze. Okay. So all this stuff that's taking place is just really, I feel like, trying to just kind of disturb me in this process of grieving my wife. But I was working through it. And so I worked through it, and then I was able to make sure everybody was good. Now, my father-in-law and brother-in-law did come in to the private viewing. And this was the last time we had Tracy's body. And she was beautiful that day. Me and my son made sure she looked excellent for her final viewing. And we also FaceTime my mother-in-law, sister-in-laws, and I all had them on the phone, and they saw her on FaceTime and said she was beautiful in the initial looking at her. So the private viewing, we had everything set up for everybody to come in, and it was a no-show. Now, I expected to have them for that, the private viewing. It was a no-show. I had that row set up, so a lot of people, I had security there, so a lot of people wouldn't bother them. You know what I mean? Because it's not the time or place. So I made sure I invited people who understood that, and they never showed up. So I kept things moving, and we the celebration was the second thing that she was okay with. Now she asked that we don't do any uh, Zeta rites, because when you're in a sorority, you have rites,
Yeah.
and about burial rights, memorial rights, whatever you call it, and then Masonic entity, she also had that right, and in our motorcycle entity, she had that right. She didn't want that, so that didn't happen. All people did was come and speak on it. That's it, and that's what that celebration was. Because Tracy, Sharrell, she poured into so many people. She met so
Yeah.
many people on different levels. I used to tell her she overdo it. We can be in Ruby Tuesdays and she got a baby in her arms. I said, Tracy, you can't sit at the bar with this baby, Tracy. You can't do that. But
Yeah.
he just wanted to hold me. So she was just a giving spirit. So, I wanted to celebrate her like that. I felt like she really had touched a lot of people. And the people that couldn't make it. And one thing about Tracy Chevelle, we had a party for Tracy almost every year. April the 2nd, that window, that one, a birthday party every year. So we always celebrated each other. We always did that. She gave me a big 50th birthday. So we always celebrated each other. And that's what we did. So in this last rites of her life, I wanted to celebrate her just like we've always done. Unfortunately, everybody didn't make it to all these birthday events that we had for her, but that's cool. But she was a light that needed light shined on her because I was not, I'm going to say this and I'm going to close on this one with this subject. I was not going to celebrate my wife on a minor level because what I seen her go through from her depression to the elevation of meeting all of her dreams and aspirations,
She did.
I saw it. She did it, Sharrell.
She did.
And I'm just not gonna give her nothing willy nilly. I'm sorry. I saw her bigger than that. And I thank God for it. To death did his part.
Whew. It's so much turmoil on the show that we're watching between you and the Braxtons. You really never came out publicly and said anything bad about them. Do you see any kind of way, any form of reconciliation?
Oh, I'm definitely open to that. You know, I look. Okay, let me say this. I respect and meet them where they at. I respect that. And I told the attorney that. But one thing I'm not going to do is enter into a place where it's going to cause a rift. So, say for example, Tony said, "Have you talked to, you know, Tracy's husband?" There was a response to that, and I didn't like the response, so I'm not going to entertain that. There's other individuals that talked about me being on the show. I had a signed contract to be on the show, Sherelle. I was supposed to tape that day. The producer
Oh,
called me and said, the producer called me that day and said, "I'm sorry, Carol, I got some bad news for you. The sisters said they'd protest if you allowed the opportunity to come on the show." Cool. I know Tracy went through the protesting thing. The contract, the negotiation, it's out the window. But I have a signed contract.
uh, oof, that's deep. We
I
see
will talk to Tony though.
you will.
Absolutely. She seems to be
Good.
more rounded in this situation.
Yeah. I pray that y'all come together. I know it's a lot that happened, but it's in everybody's best interest to come together because, and you don't have to answer this on the show, little Kevin Jr. is struggling, and everybody understands why. He needs everybody to come together. And I worry about him. You watching your child struggle like this on something you can't fix. How are you handling this with him?
I feel like that I gotta continue to try to, navigate through this. It's been some real strong situations with myself and Kevin. And I really know for a fact that I have to continue to use the resources that we have to bring him in because that's what Tracy wanted. Tracy would not have wanted things to be the way that they are. I know that for a fact. And so to drag that narrative and to talk about things in that way, you can sit up here and say this is what Tracy wanted, this is what Tracy wanted. See, Tracy would definitely understand if myself and her was talking that the cause and effect that's taking place on our son, she would have never wanted this. Never. And for him to have to go to jail, for him to have to go through these court systems, we fought in every way that we can to make sure that Kevin did not live in that realm of life. Because she
Mm-hmm.
know what I went through in my past. And you heard them call me these names about my 80s. In the 80s, I was, in that life. But when Tracy met me, she didn't know that part of me at all. And so we, grew into a very, you know, beautiful situation, as I would call it. And we raised our son together. And for him to be going through the things that he's going through right now is the worst. His wife, he had been with his wife since they were 14, 15.
Mm, mm,
And this is just it's a lot on him. It's really crushing him. And so I feel like anybody that's really trying to uplift him, they wouldn't do anything to disturb my relationship with him on
mhm,
no level. So to
mhm,
me, you don't care if you're driving it like that. That's just my
yeah.
opinion.
Also, too, they're on the show. They talk about you and little Kevin bumping heads, and it's very negative. But I want to remind everybody how beautiful your relationship was with Tracy. If you can talk about it, what was the best part of that relationship? And it seems like you're still. And I follow your Instagram. You're still in deep mourning. What was the best part that other people don't see? Like if they painted it to be a different picture and that you're such a bad guy, but Tracy stayed in that relationship for a reason. What was the most beautiful part?
First of all, I still wear my ring, Sharrell. I still wear it. This is my engagement ring. This is my marriage ring. This is my fraternity ring. One thing about myself and Tracy, one, our pillow talk was always beautiful. And we talked about a lot of things. We learned how to communicate with each other on many levels. Tracy taught me how to laugh. I was so serious when she first met me. Laughing to me was like for soft dudes. And I just didn't laugh a lot. But she had a sense of humor that was beyond mention. So she taught me how to laugh and enjoy life at a whole nother level. And we fed off of that. And when I first met Tracy, I didn't drink. So the first drink I seen her take was Jack Daniels, and I was like, "Whoa!" So Tracy taught me a whole nother level of enjoying life, and I embraced it. But she had a negative pull so much it was hard for it to be embraced on a full scale. But we did everything to work through it. So with us trying to work through and navigate through our journey, it really gave us a relationship of one, and we grew into that, good, bad, and different. And we knew how to appreciate that, and we love each other for that. We man, trust and believe we had our disagreements, and you being in a marriage for a while, it's gonna be disagreements. It's gonna be ups and downs, but we learned how to work through these things, and that's what brought us together. And I tried. Once I saw Tracy get to a level in life that she always thrived for and was thirsty for, that made me show that I had to support her and sacrifice where I am in my journey. And I feel like I did it to the best of my ability, and she embraced it to the best of her ability. And that's what kept us together because I always wanted her to win because I watched how her soul was taken out of her when she didn't sign. And that's why that was always brought up. I give one sister credit. She did apologize on national TV for that. And
Which
I hear
sister?
other Trina,
Trina? Okay, that's good. Go ahead. Sorry.
Trina, yeah, Trina, when they were sitting on the boat on one episode, she apologized to Tracy because Tracy, one of Tracy's biggest things was she helped her sisters, and all she wanted was the same help that she, had. Tracy always was there for her sisters, always, and she wanted the same thing. That was it. And so I felt like we learned how to navigate through stuff, even when we disagreed. We would disagree because I'd be like, nah, Trey, nah, you ain't gotta take that. Why you taking that? Things of that nature. But
Mhm.
we learned how to just work together and support one another to the best of our ability. And that's what I loved about her, that she was open to that. Good, bad, and different. Because trust me, Tracy is a fire. We both fire signs. So we brought the smoke.
Okay, last question. Everybody in my chat is very concerned about you. My chat asked me to reach out to you. How are you holding up?
it's day to day, and I thank God that I have resources that always, check in on me, make sure I'm okay, make sure I'm taking care of myself. I got one brother that hit me and said, "Man, are you doing that interview today? Are you okay to do that? Because you got to be there for Kevin," is what he said. And I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm good. This is my way of releasing." So I thank God for this platform, and I'm in counseling, and I'm gonna
Oh,
continue that
good.
spiritually and mentally, to make sure that I am all I can be as a man. And I appreciate you asking.
Well, Kevin, please add me and Perry to that list of people that are going to check in on you. I'm sorry. Oh, Perry, I guess he's changed his mind. Remember, he said he wasn't coming up. No.
Oh
Hi,
no,
Perry.
I just wanted to wait till you finish and then just go over the chat to see if anything was missing. But I think he pretty much answered the things, the relationship with him and Junior. He said he's gonna meet him after this. So it's a lot of people gonna want to make more out of things than what it is. But I really want to say this to you, Kevin. Prayers out to you, Junior, and the Braxton
Thank you.
family. And I wish you all the best and healing for both sides. And I hope that one day y'all can find some neutral ground. I mean, from
Yeah,
what I get
me
from
too.
it, questions in the chat, they saying, is the Braxton's family that controlling? Did other sisters get the same treatment that Tracy got when it come
Oh,
down to people being in the relationships? So that's pretty much all I can see that we could have missed. Did the other sisters did they get so involved in the other relationships as they did with you and Tracy? And if so, talk about it.
From my perspective, I don't think so. I think Tracy was handled very different, and that was one of her concerns. I mean, then my father-in-law, I would say that he did his best to support Tracy as much as he could. So I will always give him that. And in the end, I feel like my mother-in-law came and supported Tracy strongly. And I just feel like if Tracy had the level of support that she needed throughout, it would have been a different situation. I really do.
this just jumped in my head. Do you even know Vaughn and Sean?
So Vaughn, I met him, in the beginning of Katrina. Our first time meeting was when we was on our way to Napa Valley, and we was on the same flight. And then there were interactions, and I appreciated how he came around and supported during that time that Tracy was sick. He was there to the best of his ability. Um, Sean didn't really know Sean, heard of him over the years. Uh, he, I guess he was around, but like I asked Tracy, did she really know him? She said she didn't. He didn't come at all to the house when Tracy was sick. So Tracy was a
Hmm.
little bit. She really didn't care much for that situation. So she always would tell me that she didn't want that energy around her. So it stayed out the way.
Thank you so much, Kevin. You have opened up. There was no questions that you wouldn't answer. For some reason, I don't know if this ever happened to you before. You see somebody on TV and you just connect with them. Like me and Perry really want what's best for you. And if you ever need anything, and know that me and my chat, we're always supporting you. And it's just, and you didn't have to do this. I appreciate it. And
I
we love
appreciate.
Tracy too. Yeah. All right.
I can tell. I can tell, and I
No,
appreciate you guys too.
yeah, yeah. I'm gonna call you after this, okay? Oh,
I think he could have
All
froze,
right.
but
I'll talk to you soon.
okay.
oh,
Thank you. Thank you. Oh my God.
yep, yeah, he should
I
keep his
love
head.
that man, huh?
He should keep his head up. It will be better days, you know. But I understand. I mean, I couldn't imagine going through this.
All right, you guys, I hope we gave you a good interview. He opened up. There was no question he didn't answer. And I don't know why I feel so emotional right now. It's just a lot. And, R.I.P. Tracy and Tawanda, I know you're watching this. Let's stop it. Everybody get together. I know you're watching, Tawanda. Please, y'all back up. And no matter what happens, this man is going to be Junior's father forever. He's family.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to call you too, Tawanda, if you want to respond. I'm going to call you too. All right, you guys, this has been one of the best interviews I've ever did. I don't mean to get emotional. Y'all know who I am, but I love that man. I really do. Any last words, Perry?
Oh no, I just praying for both sides. Like I said, healing, and the Braxtons got to realize. I understand they grieving because people say, well, both sides are grieving, but they got to grieve a little better and understand that for whatever they cannot take their anger out on Kev Sr. Just do better.
All right, you guys, thank you. We will see you guys later. We're out. See you next time. Bye, guys.